It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Rose, Anson, yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Welcome on into the Full Court Press. Jason Walker, Eric Frandsen here on a Reaction Monday. And a lot to react to between football, basketball. It was a pretty solid week to be an Aggie. Not perfect, but pretty solid.
Pretty solid, yes.
Wins.
You definitely say that.
Yeah, wins from the football team, men's basketball team, and All-American in cross country. Did have a loss in volleyball, which robbed the Aggies of a chance to be co-conference champions, but they'll still get the number 3 seed in the upcoming volleyball conference tournament. They'll take on Boise State in round 1. San Jose State will await the winner of the Aggies and Broncos. Of course, there's a whole mess of politics involved in that, but
yes, there is.
We'll kind of leave it at that. For the most part, there was an emergency hearing about that, like on Saturday or Thursday or sometime late last week.
The hearing was late last week on Thursday, but I haven't heard if the judge ruled or not yet.
I gotta get it done quickly because that was the whole point.
Yeah, it starts on Wednesday.
Yeah, just gotta figure that out. We had a few texts come into our Full Court Press text line. Reminder. These are all about the basketball game. It was Aggie call from Friday, I believe, pretty much all of them. And I think one from Saturday as well. So just a reminder, it's the 435-339-0321 is no longer the Aggie call, the KVNU Aggie call number for the text line.
Yeah.
We'll keep pumping that reminder out.
554-1175. That's the number for KVNU Game Day. For their pregame predictions and post-game analysis, 554-1175.
There we go. So on our Full Court Press text line, if you guys want to join in on any of the topics for today, football, basketball, cross country, Utah Jazz, high school basketball, getting fully underway. Almost every team between boys and girls basketball has played already. I think the Ridgeline boys are the only ones who have not played in a game yet. But everyone else has already seen action, and we'll get into that. Basketball, we'll try and section these off into a first hour football, second hour basketball. So if you have a preference, there's your forewarning. We prefer that you stay the entire hour. But we'll be kind of sectioning off each of these topics. So we will get into Utah State's, pretty big win over Iowa. Very solid game there. But we're going to kind of lead the show with football. Utah State getting their first winning streak of the season with a win over San Diego State. Though before we get too far into that, I'm not going to leave this text for another hour. But 2444 texting in saying, I firmly believe that the Aggies are a top 25 basketball team, so it's a little disappointed that they aren't getting more votes after a great win against Iowa on Friday. However, a couple more wins in Orlando this week will turn some heads. And yeah, the Aggies appear in the AP poll, way down at the bottom with like 2 guys that have put them in their ballot. But something I kind of noted on social media is like most AP voters don't even take note of Utah State until December. So whether or not they deserve to be a top 25 team, set it aside. That's just the way AP voters going to AP vote.
Right. Getting a win over Iowa gets some attention, but
the problem is Iowa's not a top 25 team either. And like I said, there's 2 things that get you into the top 25. You'll get kind of noticed for being undefeated this far in, but there's 2 things that get you into the AP top 25, at least for mid-majors. If you're a Power 5 team, and the Dukes and the Carolinas and the Blue Bloods and all that, getting into the poll early in the season means just be that program, you'll get votes. For Utah State, it's beat a top 25 team. That'll at minimum get you votes. Might even put you into the poll, depending on how the rest of the season has gone. And the other is to start 10-0.
Right. Yeah, you got to win a bunch of games and win them by some good margins.
Yeah. So unfortunately, the Aggies have not done either of those. So again, I'm not even disagreeing with 2-4-4-4 whether or not the Aggies are a top 25 team. That's just how the AP vote's going to be. Let's get into football. I know the Utah State football team hasn't proved that they're a top 25 team. Nobody's really going to be putting them in the poll. But still, 3 wins in their last 4 games. Wins over Wyoming, Hawaii, San Diego State. You got to blip in there with the pretty big loss to Washington State. But in all, Eric, this is a team that has actually shown improvements. Like a few weeks ago, I'm riding my Monday cool down, trying to, I shouldn't say invent reasons to be positive because that would imply that I was lying through my teeth about being positive about the Aggies when I did feel like there were reasons to be positive. Be positive even in some of the losing. There are fun moments, within these losses. There are lessons learned, memories made. But you kind of had to dig for some of those and you kind of had to look a little further and take it from some of the coaches and kind of take the coach's word for it that a lot of these things are happening. And Nate Dreiling has to go out into all these press conferences and, like a lot of losing coaches, I'm not saying Nate Dreiling has done this, but when I've seen a lot of losing coaches, they have to invent reasons to be positive. But Nate Dreiling, and he's kind of been in that situation where I would have generally thought that of Nate Dreiling. He's inventing reasons to be positive. But in hindsight, he never really seemed he had to invent them because they were improving. And now, several weeks after they started 1-6, Nate Dreiling gets to go out there and say, yeah, it's, this team is improving. And there's things that he can smile about and say, hey, yeah, we improved here. They're actually doing better. And I know you can point out that their 3 wins are over a 2-9 Wyoming team, a 4-7 Hawaii team, and a 3-8 San Diego State team. But Utah State got beat by 16 points by a 3-8 Temple team, a team that's now 3-8.
Right.
So
and has fired their coach.
Yeah, and has fired their coach. So that's what they were doing 2 months ago against these same kind of teams, was they were getting run out of the building. Now they're running the other team out of the building, winning games on the road against Wyoming, getting 2 blowouts against Hawaii and San Diego State. It's not going to be a thing that makes the history books. But it is definitive improvement, and it is so refreshing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, 3 of their last 4 games, they've held their opponents to 25, 10, and 20 points. They have that 49-point loss at Washington State, giving up 49 points, I should say, clarify. They gave up 49 points to Washington State. And in their losses, right, it's 49, 50, 50, 62, 45, 38, 48. They're giving up a ton. Again, those are defensive problems. It's not a quarterback issue. But yeah, this is a team that's gotten a lot better with figuring out how to slow down opponents in their run game. We've seen that things are settling a little bit more with the linebackers, with the defensive line, and even to a degree that secondary. And Utah State is able to be a little bit more focused and more effective in what they want to do in trying to slow and limit opponents. Now, Wyoming still ran the ball a ton against the Aggies, but they didn't allow them into the end zone. San Diego State didn't really run the ball very well, even though earlier in the week, Coach Dreiling said the Aztecs, they want to run the ball. They're committed to run, as a stark contrast to Hawaii, who doesn't really want to run. And this week, the Aggies are facing another team that is committed to running the ball. And so if this progression continues, then I like the Aggies' chances to be competitive against the Rams.
Yeah, if they're able to do these same things, because you mentioned San Diego State not running the ball too well. They certainly did try, and they had Marquez Cooper getting 118 yards and even averaging 5.1 yards per carry. But 188 yards? Well, I want to say it was late last week when we were doing our predictions where I was talking about if San Diego State gets around 170, 180, like that wouldn't be horrible.
Yeah.
That would actually kind of be what you'd want. And that if they get that kind of total, you weren't confident that Danny O'Neal was going to light it up to make up for a run game that was okay but not dominant. And that turned out to be the case. San Diego State had a decent amount of balance. They got 224 passing yards, 199 for Danny O'Neal. The other yards were from the backup quarterback who came in when the game was already over. But so you get 199 yards from your starting quarterback. You get 188 rushing yards from the run offense. Like if you had told me last week that's what the Aggies did on defense, I'd have told you the Aggies would have won. Like this is exactly the kind of thing they needed. Was it this super dominant performance like they did against Hawaii? No, but it was darn good enough.
Right, and it was good in the way that it didn't start off great, but they made some adjustments, they made some tweaks, and this was before the injury to Spencer Petras that was already starting to be evaluated. But the coaching staff made some adjustments. The players figured a few things out too, and the pendulum really swung the other way, and they were able to dig in and play a very complete, full second half, and then a good chunk of that second quarter as well. Utah State really won the middle quarter. There's the first quarter, there's the second quarter, then there's the middle quarter, which is the last 4 or 5 minutes of the second quarter and the first 4 or 5 minutes of the third. And Utah State really won that, and I think that totally took the wind out of the sails for San Diego.
Yeah, well, they went 21-0 in that middle quarter that you talked about, and that was a massive swing. Although I do want to point out, talking about the defense, where even though Utah State, you could say it didn't start out well, and I would agree with that because there were a couple of explosive plays. San Diego State got into the red zone a couple of times, but 10 of San Diego State's 13 first half points came on drives that started in Utah State territory. They were a pretty much direct result of the offense not, executing. Spencer Petras gets up a interception, I guess. I never really took a look back at that play to see exactly what happened. Everyone was telling me it should have been a fumble.
It looked like a fumble that just shot out of his arm, but
yeah, well,
whatever.
And because the guy caught it out of the air, they just called it a pick. If they'd have called it an incomplete pass, they would have reviewed it. But since he caught it out of the air, the referee just said, well, it's an interception. We don't care. The statisticians cared. San Diego State fans are actually mad about it because Trey White got robbed of a sack. But, oh, well, it is what it is. Some guy got probably his first career interception.
Right.
But, yeah, so Utah State's defense was doing about as well as you'd hope and even better than that. Basically allowing one good drive to San Diego State. And even, in one of the situations where they give up the Utah State fails on fourth down on their own 29, like that, in San Diego State was already up 10-0. You'd think, oh, they're going to go down 17-0. Well, they hold them to a field goal. So the defense stepped up in big ways. But then, yeah, with the offense, offense and defense, because obviously played a role in this, going 21-0 from the last 2 minutes. They scored 2 touchdowns in the final 2 minutes, where they scored at 1:53 and then with 16 seconds left, and they scored a touchdown on their first drive of the second half. That right there was probably the game, because San Diego State was 2 minutes away from going into the half up 13-0 or maybe 13-3 if they kind of, after the 2-minute warning, Utah State had already kind of driven down into field goal range, but
right.
They could have gone into halftime with a 10-point lead, and they'd have been very happy about that.
Right, yeah.
I think 13 points, because I was over here and some of the visiting San Diego State beat writers over here, them talking about how 12 or 13 points was their biggest lead over an FBS team all year. They struggled as much as Utah State has. And so going into halftime with a double-digit lead would have been huge for them. Utah State not only cuts it to 13-7, they take the lead. You can hardly express how much that changed the mood of the game, where Utah State went from, we got nothing, we're getting shut out by the visitors on our own senior night, to, we're leading, and we kind of got this one in the bag maybe, especially after they go, up 21-13. And, of course, a lot of that had to do with Bryson Barnes and how he came in and just completely caught San Diego State off guard.
Oh, yeah. And credit to him, but also credit to that offensive line, making some adjustments, moving some guys around to kind of blunt the effectiveness of White, who was very effective blowing up the line.
Yeah, I ended up being wrong. Like I thought
first quarter.
I thought, okay, the Aggies are going to be fine because they've stopped everybody else. They weren't. They had 2 sacks, not even counting the strip sack that was technically an interception. You know, they were really bothering Spencer Petras. Heck, there was another one where they had him dead to rights, but he just escaped, and then I think he either ran for a short gain or completed a short pass. Like, they had pressures on probably half of Petras' pass attempts, and it was significantly impacting the pass game and just the offense in general.
Right. And then, so the adjustment on the offensive line was one thing, but then when you put in one of the advantages of having a mobile quarterback in your bag of tricks is that if you are facing an aggressive defensive front, a mobile quarterback can escape that, because as they're pressing hard to get to you, there's going to be some gaps and openings as they over pursue sometimes. And Bryson did a really good job of that, and Faison was able to chip in some even on 2 hurt ankles.
Yeah, once he got back into the game, because he didn't play like most of the first half, had 2 carries.
Right, he was limited, but Herschel Turner was able to get in there a little bit. Jamison was able to do some things, but really it was all Bryson Barnes, and some of it was just escaping pressure. Some of it was reading what the defense was doing and knowing I've got a zone read here. I know I can take off and get some yards. I'm not even going to bother checking down because I know I've got some opportunity if I just tote the rock. And he did that. And then that also opened up other times where they're thinking run, and then he drops back, and he was able to hit guys on some nice passes too.
Yeah. Now, I do need to eat a bit of crow here with me talking about how Bryson Barnes, like early this season, I don't know if anybody even remembers me saying what I remember, and I remember now I'm kind of wrong where I talk about Bryson Barnes not being that much of a run threat. And in that sense, I'm kind of clearly wrong, because the guy who's not, if I say you're not that much of a run threat and then you go for 193 yards, maybe you actually are kind of a run threat.
Well, yeah, and his career high before was like, 80 yards?
Yeah, well, it was 88.
88. So,
and that was against Robert Morris.
That's a
60,
decent,
63 of which was on 1 run.
Right. So that's a decent amount of rushing from Barnes, but you're right. It wasn't like we've seen from some other quarterbacks in this league where the quarterbacks are legitimate every down run threats. Bryson hasn't normally been like that.
Yeah.
This was a very abnormal game for Bryson Barnes.
Yeah. But the key to this one, I think, where it really helped and where I'd be careful predicting another big rushing game from Bryson Barnes if he plays against Colorado State, because that seems pretty likely, given the comments we heard from Nate Drowning. He didn't out and out say Petras wasn't going to play, but read the writing on the wall. Petras may not start. He might. He had an injury to his throwing arm. We'll see.
Yeah.
But when I was going back and watching film, and this will be in my Monday cool line, just several examples where San Diego State sold out so hard on the running back on a lot of those early runs from Bryson Barnes. And honestly, I feel like that, this might be the first game where I actually kind of might believe people when they say Bryson Barnes ended up being the better option than Spencer Petras. I 100% stand by what I say, that Spencer Petras has been the best quarterback all year. But in this game, now maybe they would have turned it around with Spencer Petras, but Bryson Barnes provided a spark that Petras wasn't going to provide. He would have had to come up with something. Maybe they would have finally started pass protecting better. Maybe Herschel Turner, and maybe you start the second half and Nuzul Faison comes back in. Maybe they provide something in the ground game that would have had a similar spark. But that's a giant what if compared to the thing that Bryson Barnes did that San Diego State was utterly unprepared for, that Spencer Petras wasn't going to bring.
Right. To use like a baseball analogy, if you're a hitter, you're in the box. I mean, you're at the plate, and you're facing a pitcher who's known for fastballs, high on and outside. And that's what you're starting to see him do. And then suddenly, on the first pitch or two, and then suddenly they pull him, they bring in a reliever who's just throwing changeups at you. And you've been preparing for, fast and outside. And so it takes you a while to adjust to what the new pitcher is throwing at you. And that was San Diego State. They had prepared all week for a pocket passer who would spread the ball around the field, and they had a strong running back. And so they were not thinking about or game planning for a mobile quarterback who was going to keep it and run it. And it took them a while to adjust, and by then it was too late.
Yeah,
and by then, Bryson Barnes had already had momentum and mojo, and he wasn't going to be stopped.
Yeah, because by the time they got to get into halftime to actually talk about, because you look the first couple times they ran that read option, kind of in the open field, it wasn't like a 3rd and short where they knew it was going to be a run. Like a couple of those plays, one was the 19-yard touchdown run, where you look back at the play and go look at all the key defenders. The unblocked defensive end goes straight for the running back. The linebacker goes for the running back, actually fights against, he would have had the leverage to tackle Bryson Barnes, fights around anyway to try and get the running back, takes himself out of the play. The safety takes himself out of the play too. Like, everyone took themselves out of the running lane for Bryson Barnes. He runs it up for a touchdown. And then on the drive where they went up 14-13, he had another similar run. Everyone's fighting for their lives, almost basically against themselves to go get the wrong guy. And Bryson Barnes has these wide open lanes to run through. And
right.
And then in the second half, Utah State, they threw in a couple of creative play calls, because at that point, San Diego State was starting to grow wise to it. They stopped that read option a couple of times. Then Utah State threw a bit more of a curveball. Go back to those baseball analogies, where they threw a different look. For instance, there was one fake toss play where they created the same kind of effect. Get San Diego State going the wrong way, not expecting the quarterback to keep it, and then the quarterback keeps it. And unlike with Spencer Petras, where they've run these plays before to try and think, oh, you think we're going to hand off to the running back, but no, Spencer Petras is going to run the ball. And all the defenses are like, okay, do that.
Yeah.
Dare you, please. Like Utah State had one of those plays. Their second play of the game was a design run for Spencer Petras, and everything went perfectly for him. He got to use Rasul Faison as a lead blocker, and he gained 2 yards. Because that's, but Spencer Petras has his strengths. Again, I'm not saying that Spencer Petras hasn't been a good quarterback. We spent 2 months defending him. But in this case, it worked really well to go with Bryson Barnes.
We got a lot of texts coming through, but we got to take a timeout.
Yeah, we do.
Full court press.
I'm getting too long-winded. I knew we were up against a break, but I had to talk about this Bryson Barnes thing, because it was a very interesting dynamic there, especially since it went against our whole narrative about Spencer Petras. But that's the nuance. I think we were both right in what we said, but in this case, it actually made a difference for Bryson Barnes, because he was able to do something to help establish some momentum. Let's go ahead and take a break. We'll get to all these texts coming up next here on the Full Court Press.
Advanced Heating and AC and Advanced Fireplace and Stove want to help local families this year with a food drive. Drop off your canned foods at Advanced Heating across from DI, or hand them to one of their technicians when they come to your home for a repair. And to say thank you, the Advanced team will match all your contributions and offer a 20% discount on your next service call. Find out more at AdvancedFireplaceandStove.com or call 752-7272. Donate to Advanced Fireplace and Stove's canned food drive for local families.
We're not comfortable until you are. Advanced Heating and Air.
Some people like a white Christmas. Aggie fans, we prefer a blue Christmas. Put something blue under the tree from Walker 42. Here are a few gift ideas. For him, a Travis Matthews or Cutter and Buck Aggie logoed polo shirt. For her, Nike women's pullover hoodies. Aggie plush blankets are popular. Hoodies, jackets, sweatshirts. Give your Aggie fan a gift card and let them choose from the Walker 42 wall of hats. Make it a blue Christmas with something under the tree from Walker 42.
'Tis the season, and if you're getting engaged, bring that special someone to S.E. Needham Jewelers. You'll love our extensive selection of beautiful engagement rings. Also, you'll select a diamond from Utah's largest selection of loose diamonds. You'll find a unique ring at an affordable price with diamonds direct from Antwerp, Belgium at internet pricing. It just doesn't get better.
And you may also take advantage of our 12-month interest-free financing.
Open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 7, where Utah gets engaged. S.E. Needham Jewelers, middle of the block, at the sign of the clock.
When it comes to home care, it's important to know you have a choice. If you or a loved one is in need of hospice or home health services, remember that Primrose Home Care and Hospice believes in treating the patient as well as the problem. We work directly with you and your doctor to create a health plan that's catered to your needs. Our team is devoted to providing options in the freedom and safety of your own home. Visit us at primrosecare.com or call to schedule a free consultation. Primrose Home Care and Hospice, your local hospice and home health provider since 2006.
Now here's a concept. You earmark 1/3 of your profits to go back into the community, to local charities. Dex Imaging does that. My name is Anthony Wagoner, and I'd like to share with you what I know about Dex, the company that acquired Valley Office Systems. Dex Imaging is committed to continuing quality customer service while raising the bar to become a strong community partner. Join us in creating the brightest image for tomorrow. Contact us at deximaging.com.
The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Four 435-339-0321. Send in your text, your reactions to Utah State's win over San Diego State or their win over Iowa or any of the games in general. A lot happened over the weekend with the Aggies. It's the busiest time of year, probably the most sports going on right now. Although 3714, thanks for the heads up. We mentioned the Mountain West volleyball tournament, and there was the whole legal case going on with a transgender player on San Jose State. And 3714 mentioning a federal judge ruled in favor of the Mountain West. On the lawsuit, the judge ruled the volleyball championship can proceed as planned and denying a motion to ban that player. So yeah, Friday will be interesting. Regardless who wins on Wednesday, certainly we hope Utah State wins. But whether it's Utah State or Boise State, both schools forfeited their regular season matchups against San Jose. Will they forfeit again and give San Jose a clear path to the championship? From what I've heard, Utah State would play, like from a couple of different places. They would not forfeit.
I would hope that they'd play. It just would be, playing politics and sports is always kind of dumb.
Yeah, using sports as political theater. And I get that it's an issue that kind of has to be intertwined with sports. Like I get that. It
needs to be addressed.
But it's some of the political just gamesmanship or showmanship that's happening here. I don't know. I just have a general distaste for politics. I have political opinions and strong ones at that, but I get bothered when this kind of stuff happens.
Right. And there's going to be a crowd of people that'll point fingers, whether it's Boise or Utah State, that when they face San Jose in the second round, if they face San Jose in the second round, they'll just point to them and say, see, you were just trying to make political points in the regular season. And that's not true. That's not the case. These players had legitimate concerns. And so hopefully we see Utah State ride some success, that they built some momentum going into this postseason and able to continue it.
Yeah, hope they can get themselves another Mountain West championship. Let's get through several more of these texts. We had a lot come in, and we kind of went on our own little analysis. Let's get to the text line. Your guys' thoughts on this game. 6860 saying the biggest positive for me in the game against San Diego State was the fact that the Aggies came back from down 13 points. A losing team normally will just roll over, but the Aggies didn't this weekend.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, that's something that this coaching staff has done a really good job over the last month and really all season long, still trying to stay positive and still trying to improve the attitude of the team. There's been some circumstances that have been really just tough, right? I mean, no one would predict it, and it affects any team to the degree that it's affected Utah State. It's hard to pick up wins. But the coaching staff has always tried to be positive. They've been continuing to develop players, and they've had this mentality with the practice guys, the scout team guys, second, third string guys that, look, you very well could get your chance and be starting before this whole thing is done. And they have. And so you can see that just how this team is feeling and moving this time of year, where it very well could have been easy to just give up and say, it's an interim coach. It's not the season we wanted. There's all this other drama. I'm just going to hit the transfer portal, whatever.
You could have had a bunch of those players that just say, oh, well, I'm just going to, red shirt and transfer portal. And, some players have actually already done that. But you could have had so many of them just like turtle up and, forget about the season, just move on. And they haven't. And they haven't had to have this, kind of fake positivity where they just say, oh, we're doing fine, even though we're like, 1-9 or something like that. If they'd reached that point and just have this kind of fake positivity. It's not always fake, but like it kind of comes across as that. We're just trying to, invent positives where there might not be any. But they've gone out and created their own positive narratives because, when you win 3 out of 4, you may have started the year 1-6, but you won 3 out of your last 4. They've shown legitimate improvement, even in the context of their strength of schedule. They've shown improvement. As I mentioned, the last time they faced a team that's now 3-8, like when I shouldn't say last time, when they faced a 3-8 team 2 months ago, they lost by 16 points in embarrassing fashion. Just seemed like they collapsed, gave up. That was kind of the impression we got in that game. 2 months later, same caliber of teams with very similar records, and they're rolling them up and throwing them out the window. It's like, all right, we got this.
Yeah.
Just absolutely beating the tar out of them. And so that's where it's just been such a major positive. And again, doing it a couple of different ways. Like with Hawaii, they dominated the whole game. With Wyoming, it's a nail-biter finish, game-winning field goal. This one, they had to rally where they started bad. They didn't really start bad against Wyoming or Hawaii. They started bad against San Diego State. And then they played incredibly well. 41 unanswered points.
Yeah, it was fun. 8968, what's the status of the quarterback this week? Aggies are not as bad off as the Utes. I'm told they're down to a 5th string quarterback. Coach Dreiling talked about that earlier today in his press conference with a bit of a status update on Spencer Petras.
Yeah, I don't know yet. We'll know more here in the next probably 24 hours. Just hurt his throwing arm, so waiting to get all the reports back on that. So I'll be able to answer that probably later on in the week.
So we'll call him on Thursday. That's been the thing.
Yeah. He always says, we'll know more on Thursday, but there's no media availability on that.
I think they meet with a TV crews on like Thursday or whatever.
I guess.
Because that's a lot of times they'll give that information to the TV crews, and that's where they're bringing it up during the game, is that kind of stuff. They have those, but they don't have it like with the print and web media.
No.
They're not invited to that meeting.
No. When we used to have the rights, and I was able to go up to those meetings with Al Lewis and Craig Hislop, and we were able to find out a little bit more detail about the game plan, what was intended, at least approaching the game. And yeah, they hold those meetings with broadcasters who have those rights to those games. But yeah, we don't know with Spencer. Hope that he'll be okay, but not sure. My concern is, what if Bryson gets hurt?
Yeah,
there's a pretty big drop off of. Because we can debate about, is there much of a gap between Petras and Barnes? But there's a significant drop-off between Barnes and Conover, I guess?
Yeah, it's Conover. He's been the 3rd string. He's the one that's seen the snaps because they went down to their...
He saw a little bit of action early in the year.
I think either or maybe both of USC and Utah, I think he might have played. And then he was in for that last snap where they knelt down. At the end of the game against San Diego State, which may or may not have been a move to make sure that Bryson Barnes kept his rushing record because he was really close, and a kneel down would have taken some of his rushing yards away, maybe, because they might have counted it as team negative rushing yards. I don't know. Statistics gets a little weird when you talk about how you define all these plays.
Yeah, but where it was Spencer's throwing arm, and it's a short week, I'd be concerned about that.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky. A few more texts. There's all these basketball ones. Let's get through these. Some of our basketball. We're gonna have a lot of our big analysis in the second hour, but I don't want to just brush these off until then. But 5374 saying it feels like Ian Martinez has hit another level of athletic, even though he was in foul trouble against Iowa. He had some ridiculous moves.
Yeah, I was concerned when he hit that fourth foul and there was a lot of time left. That's the time where Mason really picked things up. But even coming back in and really not changing his game, still playing at a very high level. Sometimes guys hit that fourth foul and the coach says, I still need you, and there's like 5 minutes to go. They play just a little bit more conservative, but Ian didn't do that.
Well, he stayed in. He had that third foul and stayed in for a pretty decent amount of time, just playing with 3 fouls. And it was actually a couple of Ian plays that he had that, big poster dunk. And then I think he had a couple of free throws a minute later or something like that, where that actually was the beginning of what was, I think, a 9-0 run for Utah. I think he also had a long jump shot, which I actually need to go back and look, because I could have sworn he had a 3-pointer that was called a 2, and they never fixed it. And I need to go back and check, because I thought I was going crazy, because nobody else noticed it except my brother, who was sitting next to me. And nobody mentioned online, so I must have just mistaken it. But he kind of began what was a 9-0 run. Mason Falslev got in on the action as well. So him playing with 3 fouls was pretty huge.
Yeah.
And being able to play the same. 5254 saying the Aggies win over Iowa should have gotten them ranked around the 23-25 range. Like I said, again, as good as the Iowa win was, Iowa in KenPom was and still is in the 40s.
Yeah, it's a game that gets you noticed, but I don't know if it's a game that gets you ranked.
Yeah.
Because the resume before that is not spectacular. So it's
there's 38 undefeated teams.
Yeah, so it's enough to get you noticed, but I don't think it's enough to get you ranked just yet.
Yeah, like when there's 38 undefeated teams and a bunch in the top 25 who have maybe one loss, but it's like to another ranked team. Like, I get that the Aggies have a team that's probably capable of being top 25, but looking at it from an AP voter, like, okay, you have a team that's ranked in the 40s in basically every metric. A team that doesn't have a win over a top 25 team. Their best win is over a team that's also in the 40s. And there's 38 undefeated teams and a bunch of other teams that, in the preseason poll have those better metrics. Like, I get it. From an Aggie perspective, you say, this is a top 25 team, and it should be. But I can make every compelling argument that they haven't necessarily proven that yet from an outside perspective. Yes, us watching this team, we can see the potential of the team. But the AP voters aren't necessarily going to see that because they're human, guys. So give them some slack. They'll catch on eventually. And if the Aggies keep winning, they'll earn that spot in the AP poll.
Yeah, good point. 9315 texting in. A couple of texts here. Not seeing Nate as one of the names in the rumor mill on Twitter. Does he have a chance at head coach if he beats Colorado State? I believe that Spencer is a top quarterback, but the pig farmer is still amazing and has certainly improved from the beginning of the season. Last 6 or so minutes of the Iowa game can be summed up with one word: dominating.
I think it was Patrick Mayhorn who basically said that Utah State was bullying. He wanted to make sure it didn't go unnoticed that Utah State was bullying a Big Ten team off the court late in the game. A Utah State team that we didn't necessarily see as a bully team. They're going to be this fast-paced offense team. They just went and beat a team off the court.
They did.
Dominating the late game, rebounding, offense, defense.
Took away some of their strengths. Like the early part of the game, the way that they started, and we'll get into more of this next hour. But Utah State did a good job of taking away some of Iowa's strengths. As far as Spencer and Bryson. Bryson Barnes has improved as a quarterback. His throwing was really on point. He's 13 of 15 on Saturday. He wasn't that accurate earlier in the season.
Yeah, really struggled. The one thing that I know he definitely does a lot better than Spencer Petras is his deep ball actually accurate.
Yeah.
Because the one thing I can't stand with Petras is, he completes everything 20 yards and in, but once he has to go more than 20 yards, he's overthrowing guys so often. Barnes will put it in there, at least in catchable range.
Right.
Sometimes it's spectacular catch, Grant Page, but it's in catchable range. So that's something he's got. And then, he's improved on that intermediate stuff. Don't overthrow your receiver. Don't throw it at their feet. those kind of accuracy issues that he had a little bit of, but is definitely improving. He's completed 15 of his last 17 passes for a passer rating that's, I think, in the 300s. But that's partly because he had a 2-for-2 with 2 touchdown game.
That's true.
The last time out.
And as far as there's rumor mill going around, I don't know the reliability of some of these, but there are some rumors that seem to be overlooking Nate Dreiling as a full-time guy at Utah State.
And I know everyone always, and we need to do this, does the interim coach have a chance? 8-9 times out of 10, no, he doesn't. Is that fair? You can have that debate, whether or not that's fair. Should Nate Dreiling get a shot? You can debate whether or not he can deserve that shot. I may or may not agree with you. The job he's done as far as motivating and getting these guys to improve with the crummy hand he got dealt, where he got, it's like playing poker and you get handed a, 2 and a 3. It's like, good luck.
Of different suits.
Yeah, of different suits. And then, the cards come out and it's a jack, queen, and a king. It's like, good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck winning that hand.
Right.
You can have that debate. And like I said, I won't necessarily disagree with you. Because Nate Dreiling has shown that he is an amazing coach and an amazing person. And so deserving of, to be honest, a better shot at being a head coach. And at minimum, he should be getting a defensive coordinator job somewhere. But he's just not a candidate. And that's just the rough truth of it. I kind of wish it was different. I kind of wish that he'd get a chance. But I know we got another timeout, but I did ask him that. You want to play cut 12? Let's get
his media availability today. No one was asking it. I'm like, this is really our last presser with the guy. Someone has to ask. So I threw it out there.
My mindset going into this year was I'm not going to make any decisions based off of what's going to get me this job. Every decision that we make in this building and that I make is what's best for these players and how can we get them successful. And next week we can have this conversation and we'll see what happens. But right now, the only thing I'm really worried about is making sure that we send these guys out on top, making sure we keep getting better. And if we do that, maybe things will take care of itself. But the main focus has to be on the players until this job's done.
Yeah, so I asked him, just the premise of the question leading up to his response was, the team is playing more motivated. You're winning games. You've got some momentum on your side. You've won 3 of your last 4. Do you think you've done enough to have that interim tag removed? And that was his answer.
Yeah. So I think he has shown that he is head coaching material. Give him a better situation. I think he's going to put together a better team and perhaps even a great team. But I think we kind of knew going into all this that Nate Dreiling probably wasn't going to be a candidate anyway. Diana Sable was going to want to make, it's a football program. You want to make the big hire. That's the headline hire.
Yep.
That in men's basketball. And she's already getting tons of praise because of her Jared Calhoun hire. Imagine if she does something similar with the football program. They just about build a statue over outside, next to Merlin Olsen if she's able to do something like that and turn the football program around. So she's going to go after a hire. Now, Jay Hill, I was skeptical that Jay Hill would even be a candidate, and his name is all over the place. And
his name keeps coming up.
And from credible places, not just everyone bringing him up saying, oh, that's the obvious candidate, but people who I trust with knowing these kind of things are talking about Jay Hill being a legitimate candidate. Whether or not he gets the job, we'll see, but that's another case where you can chalk it up to Jason wasn't quite as right about that. Jay Hill is actually a candidate to take this job.
Yeah. I know we got to take a timeout. We got more texts coming through. We'll get to those on the other side of this timeout here on the Full Court Press.
This is Ryan at My Mattress. A few years ago, I saw this sign hanging in a gas station. It said price, quality, service. Pick 2 out of the 3. Now, it's funny, and I did laugh, but at My Mattress, we don't even want to do business unless we can do all 3. Price, quality, and service. We have a 90-day sleep guarantee, 90-day price guarantee, and we will answer the phone if you have a warranty concern. At My Mattress, we deliver, we have financing, we strive to be price, quality, and service every day. Isn't it time to sleep exceptionally? Only at My Mattress.
This Thanksgiving, Adams Wealth Advisors is grateful for you, our clients, and our community. It's our sincerest wish that as you host or travel to meet loved ones, safety follows you wherever you may be. Adams Wealth Advisors is here to help you secure your financial future so you can focus on what truly matters. Happy Thanksgiving from Adams Wealth Advisors, building your legacy and protecting your peace of mind. Visit adamswealthadvisors.com to learn more.
Are you looking for compassionate and reliable care for yourself or a loved one? Look no further than Aegis Home Health and Hospice. I'm Tom Sherlock, a licensed social worker, part of the dedicated team of professionals committed to meeting the needs of our community. Voted best in Northern Utah 2 years in a row, we pride ourselves on delivering exceptional service that you can depend on. We're here to ensure comfort and dignity every step of the way. When it comes to your health, choose the agency that Northern Utah trusts the most. Choose Aegis. Visit myaegis.com or call today 435-723-9000.
The Aggies, the Jazz, the high schools, the full court press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Jason Walker here with Eric Frandsen on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan. Going to our text line, 435-339-0321. A lot of interaction on the text line. Another one discussing volleyball and potential predicament they face. If they win in the first round, they would face San Jose State, a team they forfeited against over issues of a transgender volleyball player. 4446 chiming in saying, I hope they don't play if they make it to the championship volleyball game, technically the semifinal, but is it semifinal or quarterfinal?
It would be the semifinal.
Semifinal. Yeah. So sometimes the core of the text, though, being sometimes doing the right thing, forfeiting has consequences you may not like, but doesn't mean it's not the right thing to do. I know, like I say, there's arguments on both sides, and it's an interesting, and it's a discussion I've had with a lot of people about what they should or should not do.
I know there are players in Utah State and a player on San Jose State team who feel very strongly about this issue. So much so that they got together with other players around the league to file a lawsuit.
Yeah, it's not a small deal.
It's not an easy thing to do, to stand up like that.
Yeah, it's something they're standing up for their principles, which is something to be praised. Whether or not you agree with them, you stand up for your principles.
Yeah.
5773 texting in is JD texting in saying, and I think he tweeted this out earlier. It says, regarding the Aggie head coaching possibilities, keep an eye on Carlos Lachlan. That's the Ohio State running back coach, and I'm sure JD knows him. He's an old Oregon Ducks running back coach as well. Also said the associate head coach for Ohio State, Justin Fry. Fry. Says was also told there'll be 100% house cleaning. Coach Bass will be very in demand coach for other programs across the country, which makes me sad because he should be in demand at Utah State.
He should be demand.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be a mistake if someone just came in and just blanket said, I don't care what you did. I don't care what your position was. I'm 100% cleaning house. That would be a major, monumental, stupid mistake.
Yeah. And there's some recruits that he may not be able to retain if you clean house. Some pretty key local recruits. JDL's thing, I've heard the Hale and Mountain West retread stuff. This is message by someone I trust this morning. But as always, take it with a grain of salt until there's an official announcement.
Yeah, one of the rumors was that there was somebody who's already a head coach in the Mountain West who has shown interest or interviewed for the job.
Which everyone kind of trying to read into it. They're basically saying it's Jay Hill, Ken Nui-Matalele.
Oh, you were close.
I got halfway through it and then I lost.
Ken Nui-Matalolo.
Okay, I was going like Lele, so I would have gone with the wrong vowels there. I may have to learn that if those rumors end up being true and he's a candidate. Bronco Mendenhall getting thrown around. I don't see that mainly because this is his first year at New Mexico.
Right. And look, he's got emotional ties to New Mexico, which is where he started his coaching career. He's done the coaching in Utah thing. Granted, coaching at USU is vastly different than...
Yeah, a lot less pressure than coaching at BYU, where the second how many people were calling for... head coach's job for this week after BYU loses? There's some people who are actually calling for his head, even after a 9-0 start.
I don't know if they've gotten too loud, but if they lose again this week, then it might start to swell up.
Crazies. That kind of stuff. Let's get to a couple more texts, then we'll have another quick break and wrap up the first hour. 6543 saying, what factors have led to the demise of this once great San Diego State football program the last few years? I don't know if I can go into the full breakdown because I haven't followed the Aztecs super closely. I'm sure there's some breakdowns, but we've talked about it before where this team just went from a dominant defensive power, good enough offense, great running backs, ball control, and then they just kind of slowly lost their edge in those areas. They stopped being an elite defensive team. they stopped being an elite rushing team. I know Marquez Cooper just passed 5,000 career yards, but I'm pretty sure 4,000 of that was at a different school, if I'm not mistaken. Pretty sure he was a transfer this offseason. So they had this identity, but they stopped actually being that identity. Exactly how that came about, heaven only knows. But they had an identity as this elite defense, great running program, and they stopped being those things, and now they're left with nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they had a longtime coach who just got tired and just wanted to kind of sail off into the sunset a little bit. And then they wanted to see if they could just kind of keep things going and recapture that identity, but it just wasn't there. Yeah, I don't know. It's been a long kind of downward regression for San Diego State, which has been too bad because you're right. That was a once proud program. They've invested a lot of money into a beautiful new stadium, hoping that might jumpstart some things and some fan interest. But if the product on the field isn't exciting, it doesn't matter how fancy your stadium is.
Let's say the stadium can be beautiful, but the product on the grass has to be beautiful as well.
Right. It's beautiful to a lot of seagulls.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take another break. We'll wrap up the first hour. Coming up next here on the Full Court Press.
This is Jay with Daryl's Appliance. I have some breaking news. Black Friday pricing has started at Daryl's Appliance. For a limited time, double dip and get our exclusive mail-in rebates and save up to $1,000 on appliance packages from your favorite brands. Plus, you can triple dip with Daryl's exclusive 2-year warranty on all appliances delivered and installed by Daryl's. Daryl's Black Friday sale. See store for details. Daryl's West on Airport Road, open until 6 p.m. on weekdays, 5 on Saturday.
Over the past few years, strong and crazy weather patterns have battered various parts of the country. Northern Utah and southern Idaho are not immune from its share of wild weather. Be prepared for power outages with a Generac backup generator from Golden Spike Electric. They are your local source for Generac sales and service. Generac keeps you in control when bad weather strikes. Golden Spike Electric, powering your peace of mind. Online at gsegenerators.com or call 257-3016. They also service other models.
It's that first kiss, that moment in time.
This is Jarek from Jarek's Fine Jewelry. Everyone knows us as an engagement ring store, but not everyone knows about everything else we do. Custom design, our in-house laser jewelry repair. We offer fashion jewelry, charm bracelets, necklaces, earrings, birthstone jewelry, watches. We love people to just look and make a wish list. Stop in and say hi.
Jarek's Fine Jewelry. Make it special. Make it Jarek's.
Medicare supplement premiums seem to be skyrocketing. This is Ashley from LSS Insurance, and I want you to know there are options that allow you to start saving today. Our entire team is here and local. Call LSS Insurance at 752-9493 and speak with a licensed insurance agent. No pressure, no cost, just local help you can trust. Don't wait. Changes must be made by December 7th. Call 752-9493 and let the LSS Insurance team help you find the right Medicare plan for your needs.
Following the local teams, it's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
The cold is upon us, and if you weren't prepared, well, don't despair. You can still try and salvage a little bit of that by going to your local Napa Auto Parts. If you need to change your battery, like if it's more than 4 years old, stop in, get it tested before disaster strikes, and it can leave you stranded in the cold. And if you do need a new battery and catch that you need a new battery, they can help you get one and help you install it. Get all that and more. Protect yourself from cold weather and the snow with help from your friends at your locally owned Preston to Providence Napa Auto Parts locations. One thing really quick, we have a text coming in, but it has to do with basketball, and so we're going to touch on that when we review Utah State more in depth, their game against Iowa in basketball. I want to mention an All-American for Utah State, Cameron Todd.
Yeah.
He finished 25th to earn All-American honors in the cross-country nationals this past weekend. Utah State as a team, competing as a team, for the first time in a while. When was the last time they competed as a team? It's like, it was a while ago, I think. Because usually you might send a couple of players to compete at nationals if they qualify, but qualifying as a team is a pretty big deal. They finished 22nd, finished ahead of a couple teams that were ranked above them, like Princeton, Eastern Kentucky, and Harvard. Some teams did leapfrog the Aggies, but finishing 22nd after being ranked 23rd. So the Aggies have a solid showing, and then getting an All-American in cross country. So
yeah, Artie Golden, what he's doing with that cross country team for both the men and the women is amazing. If he's had lots of honors, and he's been able to develop a lot of great athletes that compete at a very, very high level, and develop them into all conference type of players who may get overlooked when they get recruited.
Yeah, so he's the 7th cross-country All-American in Utah State history, the first since 2020. So it's been a minute, and there's been some really good cross-country runners as All-Americans.
Yeah, Utah State's produced some pretty good runners.
Yeah, but Cameron Todd, the latest for the Aggies. That's going to do it for us here in the first hour. We'll get more in-depth on Utah State men's basketball and their victory over Iowa coming up next in the second hour here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. 5 former transfers have won the Heisman Trophy over the last 7 years, but if that wasn't evidence enough of the transfer portal's impact, the current college football landscape could be the perfect indication of its power. Just look at all the transfers currently projected to be involved in the 12-team playoff. Ohio State is the current favorite to win the title, with transfers at quarterback and running back. Indiana, shockingly, is in the playoff hunt. First-year head coach Curt Cignetti. They added nearly 30 transfers to the program. Miami sits atop the ACC, thanks in large part to the transfer quarterback Cam Ward. And Jackson Dart and a group of talented players in the trenches have helped turn Ole Miss into a legitimate contender. Now, that doesn't mean high school recruits are becoming obsolete, but with the amount of talent hitting the portal every offseason, if a program wants to compete for national titles, dominating the transfer portal is certainly starting to become more of a necessity than a luxury. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. Hey, it's Dan Patrick. If you're a listener of the show, you probably know this by now. We're a big fan of Keeper's Heart whiskey. Keeper's Heart, the first whiskey to offer a unique blend of Irish and American whiskeys. Nobody's ever done it at this level. The results are incredible. Smooth enough to enjoy neat, or enough character to make amazing cocktails. Don't take it from me. I'm just an Irish-American guy who enjoys a drink or two. The whiskey experts agree. Crafted by one of the biggest names in the world of whiskey, Brian Nation, Keeper's Heart is one of the most awarded new whiskeys of the last couple of years, winning over 150 awards to date, including Best Irish Whiskey in the World, and winning a double gold at the San Francisco World Spirits Competition. You got to try it. It's available now in the best liquor stores. Look for it on the Irish whiskey shelf, or you can buy it online. KeepersHeartWhiskey.com. KeepersHeartWhiskey.com. It's a bottle worth keeping.
Days get shorter, temperatures get colder. Be prepared with a stop at your local Napa Auto Parts. Snow, ice, and cold weather are all hard on wiper blades. Napa features long-lasting silicone wiper blades from Rain-X and Trico. Stop in for a new set. They'll even help you install them. They'll also help you install a new battery if you need it. Pick up some House diesel treatment and get the case lot pricing, $12 for a half-gallon jug. Be prepared for cold weather and snow with help from your friends at your locally owned Preston to Providence Napa Auto Parts.
Les Olson IT is your source for top quality technology. We carry the latest desktop and laptop PCs in stock, configured to your specific needs, and backed by our award-winning support team. And if your business demands high-performance hardware, we offer custom-built computers that can tackle any task. We also offer great computer accessories like monitors, keyboards, speakers, Fujitsu document scanners, and more. Get a quote today.
Les Olson IT.
Northern Utah and Southern Idaho's home for sports. KLGN Logan.